We all think we love a good will they or won't they storyline. Ross and Rachel, Sam and Diane, Antonio Brown in the NFL. But when it comes to the will they or won't they around the major college football conferences and punting on the season, that wait is not enjoyable. While we hit refresh on ESPN, though, might as well get something done and run down the latest gambling news in this episode of PlayUSA to Z. I'm your host, Jessica Welman, back again for another installment of the major news updates from around the country. Now, I'm your go-to girl for the latest news from the PlayUSA network, but if you want to check out other stuff like our gambling Q&As with Nicole, the Friday 5 with Grant, state-by-state updates, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and check out our growing number of videos, including some cool documentaries on sports betting in Colorado and New Jersey. All right. In the meantime, if you like numbers, you are in the exact right place this week. The theme of the week is numbers and money, of course. Some people have it, some people don't. Let's take a look at who's flush and who's floundering. Let's start with the nation's capital. In the middle of a pandemic, the district certainly does have bigger things to worry about than sports betting. But the results of the DC Online Sportsbook Gambit so far are something to worry about, honestly. So local news outlet WTOP reported that in the first 2 months of operation, Gambit accepted just $1.2 million in wagers. Let's put that number in context. In Mississippi, where there is only retail sports betting, the state accepted $1.6 million in wagers in June alone. Rhode Island brought in $2 million. In Iowa, where you have to register at a casino before you can bet online, the state did $12.7 million in June handle and another $22.8 million in July. Now, in Gambit's defense, the population of DC is just 700,000, which means that really only Rhode Island and its 1 million residents are comparable in size. And it is relatively new, though Colorado, which launched less than a month before Gambit, seems to be doing just fine and had $38 million in June bets. Why does no one want to bet on Gambit? The crappy lines are a good place to start. All right, so the DC Online Sportsbook's the only option. So with this lottery-controlled monopoly on sports betting, there's not a lot of motivation to offer competitive lines. Also, we've seen that state lotteries in general expect a higher hold percentage or revenue on sports betting than casinos do. Tennessee's 10% hold requirement's a really good example of that. The Gambit hold on its paltry number of bets, $237,000, which is roughly 20%. Let's use Colorado as an example again. In that same time period, the sports books there accepted $63 million in wagers and netted $300,000. This is not a sign that DC is doing things better than Colorado. That's not the case. In the most mature betting market, Nevada, average hold generally falls between 5 and 7%. There is a snowball's chance in hell that Gambit was just on the winning side way more than usual to start, but in reality, the extra hold's coming from the extra juice that the app is charging on bets. What could change things up, though, is that DC now has a new retail sportsbook from William Hill with the prime location of Capital One Arena. The new temporary book is open. It boasts 7 betting windows, 5 betting kiosks, and hey, competitive lines. Other stadium-like venues with at least 17,000 seats can host retail sportsbooks too, but until there's sports with spectators, like in 2021, these books are probably going to struggle even more than Gambit is. Having to physically go somewhere to bet is a problem Illinois knows all too well. The state had a brief reprieve from the InPerson Registration requirement, but Governor J.B. Pritzker rescinded that suspension last month. He claims the casinos simply didn't mention that they still needed it, so he thought it needed to go away. As a result, Illinois sports bettors once again need to physically go to a casino to register for an online sportsbook that they can use on their phone. Illinois residents can choose to go to either Rivers Des Plaines near Chicago and get the Bet Rivers app, or they can head to East St. Louis on the other side of the state to sign up with DraftKings at Casino Queen. Here's the really funny wrinkle to this, and by funny, I mean stupid. So once you get to the East St. Louis casino, you may not even have to go inside. Thanks to geolocation technology from GeoComply, You can pinpoint your location on property and sign up entirely on your phone without interacting with anybody. That's right, the law mandates you can't sign up from your couch, but you can sign up from a couch on property at the casino. What exactly does this in-person step accomplish again? Honestly, the best bet is for Chicagoans to just drive to Indiana, bet on your phone there. And judging by the Indiana numbers, that seems to be what y'all are doing. Since launching in October 2019, Indiana has taken over $1 billion in wagers. The state crossed that threshold in July thanks to a strong rebound from a sports-starved spring. Last month, Indiana sportsbooks accepted $70 million in wagers, and that's the best month they've had since March. With 3 sports leagues offering wall-to-wall sports in August, expect that number to jump back up to 9 figures this month. Indiana is not the only state with a strong fiscal performance recently either. You might remember in our first episode, we mentioned that West Virginia launched its first online casino last month. DraftKings opened up shop, and they did so with no online slots, but they've still got $16 million in action in just the first 2 weeks of operation. Week 1 had almost $7 million in wagers. Then that number jumped 37% to $9.5 million in the second week. And again, they're doing this entirely with table games like blackjack because they still don't have any slots on the app. All right, changing subjects, we've been focusing on numbers, but I've got a word of the day for this video too, and that word is palp. It's short for palpable error, which is what you call it when the sportsbook screws up a bet, basically. For example, if I played a game of golf with Tiger Woods and they listed his odds as plus 500,000 instead of minus 500,000, that's a palp. The book accidentally flipped the signs, it's an obvious mistake, and as a result, sportsbooks will often just void the bet in the instance that happens. And that is exactly what FanDuel is trying to do, because it accidentally posted the wrong line on the odds of an MLS soccer game featuring FC Cincinnati and Atlanta United. The sportsbook initially claimed the bad line was up for just 15 minutes, but our friends at Legal Sports Report figured out that it was more like a day. FanDuel wants to cry palp and void a bet in Indiana that would have paid out $60,000. The Indiana Gaming Commission is saying, not so fast, and the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement agrees. Investigations are underway in both states, and given this is not the first time FanDuel has tried to void bets from palps, Denver Broncos, remember that one? Sure seems possible the regulators might force the book to pay out against its will. All right, we started with a will they or won't they? I'm going to wrap with a will they or won't they. New York online sports betting is a prospect that always feels like a tease. For years, lawmakers have hinted it's going to happen, and then something mucks it all up. Assemblyman Gary Pretlow is one of those lawmakers. He has dangled that carrot only to yank it away many times, so take this news with a grain of salt. While a spring attempt to get a constitutional amendment to allow mobile betting in New York didn't happen, online sportsbooks still have hope this legislative session. So Pretlow recently told Play New York that Assembly leadership says they will include online sports betting in the revenue bill, and they think they can do that without the constitutional amendment. That assurance comes from Speaker Carl Heastie, who, along with Governor Andrew Cuomo, has not really been the biggest supporter of online betting. He's also in the past said that he needs a constitutional amendment to legalize it, so this is a change of tune. What that will amount to, like the U.S. sports fans waiting for football announcements, the New York legislature is kind of waiting and seeing, because first they have to hear back on just how much federal relief they're going to get before they then tackle their own revenue bill where they have to generate a budget. That means we're going to have to wait to hear about the fate of online sports betting in New York. And that is my time. So here's one more thing that you are going to have to wait for the next episode. All right, until then, like, subscribe, bell, check out the links in the description, and find out all that and more from the news on PlayUSA to Z.